Hello and welcome to challenge number 3 in SAP's Reportapalooza Festival, Lessons from a Reporting Maestro. My name is Jamie Oswald and I'll be bringing you the Getting Started video topic, Make Your Report Interactive by Adding Parameters. You may remember me from my monster sighting dashboard, my blogs on asug.com or SAP Community Network. I'm Oswald XXL on Twitter, and if you went to middle school with me, you may remember me as the guy who showed up with the awesome rat tail in 8th grade. That's not actually a picture of my rat tail, but I assure you it did represent. To jump right in with parameters in Crystal Reports, here's a very simple report that I've created using 3 columns of data from an Access database. It's simply the band name, the decade that they came to popularity, and the genre that they represent. I'm sure some of you will think that I've categorized some things wrong, and you just have to deal with that for the purposes of this demo. So the first thing we're going to do is make a simple selection parameter. So what that means is that when a user refreshes this report, we want to let them pick a certain subset of the data to see. So in this case, we're just going to select genre, or allow them to select genre. So we want to go over to parameter fields in our field explorer and click new. In here, we're going to give our parameter a name, as is customary. We're going to keep it as a string, since the values in here will be alternative, country, western, things like that. We're going to select a dynamic list of values from this Dropbox. What that means is that every time the parameter comes up and it gives the user an option, it will go query the database to make sure it's got the most up-to-date list of values. So we want to choose a new data source. This is going to pull from the genre record in our table that's on the report. We'll click to create the parameter, and we want to not mess too much with these other settings down here. These are all very well documented, and information is available out in the forums for them. So we've created a simple parameter. Now we need to select based on it. So in order to do that, we'll go to Report, Selection Formulas, and we want to select based on the individual records. In here, we want to say that the genre on our report is equal to the genre selection that the user has made. So we'll go ahead and save and close that. And it should prompt us for which genre we want to see. I'm pretty old school, so we're going to go with rap and hip hop. And as you can tell, it's filtered down my list of results to rap and hip hop. Let's go ahead and refresh and make sure I didn't mess this up. We'll want to prompt for new parameter values. And this time, just to show that I have a sensitive side too, we'll go with country western. Hopefully. Yep, there we go. So as you can tell, Hootie switched over to country western in 2000. And so that's how you add a selection parameter to a report. Also, I want to mention that it's considered a best practice to always drag your parameter selections somewhere onto the report, just so that when people print it out, they can see what selections they've made to help them sort of understand the data that they're looking at. The second thing that parameters are especially useful for are in formulas. One of my favorite ways to use that is to allow people to dynamically sort the report based on user input. So for this is the same report that we started with last time. We're going to go to parameter fields and we'll create a new one. Now this one, I want to let people say that they want to sort this either by decade or genre. So we're going to call this the group by parameter. It's a string. It'll be static because I only want them to have 2 values. We're going to go with decade or genre, and I'm going to default one of these in. Doesn't really matter which one, although I usually try and go with the one that I think people will use more often. So now that I have this created, I also need a formula to help me interpret that. So I'm going to call this formula my group by group. I try my best not to name any formulas, database fields, or parameter fields the same thing, just because it's much easier to keep track of when you're going through here. So in this formula, I simply want to say if my group by parameter that the user's input equals decade, then do the decade. Otherwise, do the genre. So what this is saying is if they put in decade, then put the value for the decade, so 1960s, 1970s, etc., into this field. If not, then put whether they're country western or alternative into this field. And you'll see how that's going to work out in a second. So finally, we want to add a group with that group by group. So it defaulted to decade just like I had hoped. And now we'll see it grouped these bands by the decades they came out. If we refresh, it will let us change that to going by genre. Hopefully this will come back so I don't have to re-record this demo. And there you go. Thanks for coming out today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Reportapalooza.